Hey there, it is Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Well, as you can see, if you're watching Facebook Live or YouTube Live, the doctor is in. Dr. Gary Layne with us. It's been a while. He is the creator of functional Christianity because basically the rest of us are dysfunctional. Thank you very much, doctor. How are you?
I am great. Yeah, still trying to put the fun in functionality. So,
well, we put the fun in dysfunctionality. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to diss you.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Thank you very much. Well, before we get into talking about important stuff, I always like to talk about stuff that's like secondary, but I find it very, I just love reading it. So I don't know if we talked about this before, but I noticed that, let me see, I wrote down the date, May 22nd, you and Allison dressed up like Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Gary was Stevie Nicks and Allison was Mick. No, I'm sorry. It was the other way around. So what kind of party was this?
I live in an amazing part of town. And so a friend of ours had their 40th birthday party. And so I guess he was a late 80s baby. So they wanted a rock and roll party theme. Yeah. So the rock and roll party theme. And so, yeah, I met Mick Jagger and there was some other guys and gals there. Tina Turner was there.
Oh, wow.
There were lots of famous people at the party. So yeah, Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks made an appearance.
You guys look great. You guys looked awesome in those outfits.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable for me to do that, to dress up like that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got some new black jeans out of it and a nice frilly 70s. People that aren't our age don't remember the frillies, flowy shirts of men that used to wear with the long puffy sleeves and the chains and stuff. So, yeah.
Tell us more, Grandpa. Tell us more.
So the person turning 40, did they know who all these people were? Because Fleetwood Mac would have been before their time.
Right.
Wow.
No, you had to have a name tag. I'm Fleetwood Mac. And then they're like, who's that? They're like,
who is that? Yeah.
Allison's like, I'm Stevie Nicks. They're like, okay.
Who? But you're a girl.
They knew headbanger people. And, it was a secular group. So it was like, they just knew headbanger 80s kind of stuff. They were like, they might have remembered David Bowie, but I don't know who. I don't even remember the 80s. I mean, it was
so they were more like Guns N' Roses and
probably maybe some hair bands or
Bon Jovi.
Yeah. So the guy whose party it was, he had like on long shorts and sneaker keds and some chains and a ripped shirt, and he was like, and I was like, awesome, you look amazing. I was like, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, that could be
some
anybody.
80s headbanger,
Kurt Cobain or somebody. Who knows?
Yeah. We're talking about Dr.
I was
Gary.
Gonna go with Jesus, but that would have probably killed the buzz.
Jesus didn't wear jean shorts. No.
That would be interesting. Jesus and jean short. Dr. Gary Layne with us, Functional Christianity. All right, a little bit. Let's talk Tesla, and then we'll get into the real stuff here. So
Tesla.
I think it's cool. One, that you have a Tesla. Okay. Two, you're taking these long trips, and on this thing, I think you even put down how much you spend in fuel and et cetera, because you're charging. Does it have gasoline at all?
No, there's nothing. No,
it's 100%.
Yep. If my extension cord unplugs, I'm just done.
That's a long extension cord.
So here's a question, and this is a 62-year-old man that has no clue about Teslas or electric automobiles, how they work. Sure. Is there a place where you find out where you can plug in on the way so that you don't run out of a charge, or how do you do that?
Yeah. So, and so that's part of the big problem the world has right now. Tesla said, if we're going to have electric cars, we should probably have electric charging stations.
Yeah.
So they have a network of charging stations all over the country, and it's programmed into the software in my car.
Okay.
So as I'm driving down the road, the car says, hey, you're at like 12% and you need to go and stop and charge for 15 minutes and go here. And it just, drive there.
Wow, that's genius.
That's cool.
Right there. Yeah.
And so I think there's a new, I mean, America has a new phobia. It's called range anxiety.
Yeah.
And so Tesla is ahead of the curve, way ahead of the curve on that. The rest of the makers of cars are working on how to figure out how to do that. And so, the federal government says they're going to provide infrastructure, but I don't know that, I don't know. I don't want to get political, but I don't know that they're going to be able to come up with a better plan. Mine's automatic. Yeah. I mean, when I plug in, it knows my car, it charges my car. And when I hang up, I just drive off. There's no credit card swiping. There's none of that. It's not like paying for gas at a gas station.
Wow.
But
so you don't have to pay to charge or anything?
Yeah, it's a varied rate on how much it costs, but it's about 30 cents a kilowatt hour. And my car has a 26 kilowatt battery or something like that, or a 56 kilowatt battery. I don't know. It's all automatic. I don't have to worry about it. I just plug it in.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
We're talking George Jetson stuff to me, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And what's really nice is electricity at cheap. I guess, again, people don't understand how electricity, like, where does it come from? It comes from the outlet. No, not really. But Georgia Power makes power for Georgia, and it's available 24/7. And a lot of people use it in the evenings, but like nobody uses it from like midnight to 7 a.m. There's not a lot of usage of electricity. So it's cheaper to buy it at that time. And so because I'm old and because I have an electric vehicle, I can get it for as low as 1 cent. So when I slow charge at home, it costs me about 25 cents to fill up my car. When I'm on the road, it costs me like $10.
Huh.
Which is still a whole lot cheaper than paying for gas for that.
Well, and the other thing is I've never paid for an oil change in the last 2.5 years. So it's like,
nice.
I just think that's cool. Dr. Gary Layne with us, Functional Christianity. Well, catch us up, because on your Facebook, you're speaking everywhere. Eagles Landing. Let's see, where were you? Mount Perrin North. You've been going everywhere. What's going on with you?
Yeah, God is just opening some really cool doors. Let's see, Mount Perrin North has a lay counseling department where they have counselors they're training to help their community. And they called me in, and I'm trying to pour into the counselors so that the counselors can help their clients kind of, multiply that way. Eagles Landing, First Baptist down in McDonough, Georgia, has a great ministry for couples. And they had a dinner. They have a quarterly dinner. And so I was the guest speaker, and they made a mistake on their program, and they said, take however much time you need. So it was my first, you'd have to call there and find out how people liked it, but it was probably my best 1 hour stand-up comedy routine I've done. It was 1 hour solid, and it flew by to me in no time flat. And afterwards, people were coming up going like, have you been in my living room, or are you sitting at our kitchen table? Because just being an older person and maybe have a little bit more wisdom, or having counseled so long, or maybe God's given me some kind of insight to relationships, I'm able to kind of share some thoughts and some ideas. So they loved it. Been there. I'm teaching in Bulgaria again coming up. Heading to Greece to spend a month in September to work with refugees, both Afghani, Ukrainian, Syrian, all kinds of refugees dealing with trauma, post-traumatic stress. Let's see what else I'm doing. All kinds of stuff. I'm preaching the next 2 Sundays. You can catch me at Sandy Springs Community Church, 5 p.m. They have Facebook Live. You can watch me on Facebook Live at 5 o'clock, or you can come over to the church in Sandy Springs Community Church the next 2 Sundays. And it's July, so I think I'm going to talk about freedom and the freedom that Christ gives us and that kind of stuff. So all over the place.
Dr. Gary Layne, and Gary, as we were talking beforehand, you said you kind of wanted to talk about selfishness today. Are you feeling selfish today, Gary, or what is it?
I am. Okay. I am. I don't have a great way to explain this, but I posed a question to a group. What's the difference between saying you're correct and I agree. And so what I'm seeing is it's this idea. If I say to you, the sky is blue, and you say to me, I agree, then that's not a judgment. That's just like, you think that, I think that, we're okay. You can even say, I disagree, and now maybe we could have a discourse about the sky being blue, because sometimes it's red, or today it looks gray. But when I say you're correct or you're wrong, I've taken my filter and my judgment, my selfish position, and I think the Bible would call that self-righteous, and put it on you by saying you're wrong. And I know that's really deep, but I'm just sensing in society today and in people's attitudes and the way we talk to each other is I'm never bringing back what the issue is and how it affects me. I'm telling how you're wrong to try to protect myself. Does that make any sense at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because if we can say you're wrong or you're right, then we only think that we're right, and everybody should think that we do. And if we don't leave it up for discussion, then it's always only what we think. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
And then the world sees us as these very hypocritical people who are like, oh, well, you tell me I'm doing wrong, but then look at what you're doing. And so now they feel judged by Christianity. And then of course they want to judge us back. That's kind of a protection kind of thing, fight, flight kind of thing. Mm-hmm. There's this protection that comes about. So when I'm selfish, when I'm self-righteous, what happens is I tend to be very judgmental. Because I'm right. And we've talked about this before. There's only one person on the interstate in Georgia that drives the right speed, and that's me. Right? If you're driving faster than me, you are crazy. Mm-hmm. And if you're slowing me down or you're driving slower than me, then you're an idiot, right? Mm-hmm. Or something. So again, what I do is I take my position and I deem my position self-righteous, my selfish position as being the correct way. And if you're going faster, you're crazy. And if you're going slower, you're stupid. And so, but everything's judged against me. And so that's where we get selfish and relationships between couples. Oh my goodness. I mean, that's half of what I counsel is like, all right, so you're judging your spouse as being dumb or stupid or hurtful, but you're not seeing how it affects you. You're just telling them what they're doing wrong. Southerners are good at it. They look at you and say, have a nice day. It's like, quit telling me what to do.
Bless his heart.
Oh, Dr. Gary Layne with us, Functional Christianity. So I know that this is a deeper thing than we can cover in the next few minutes, but how do we change? Let's say that I'm actually not like that, but let's say that I'm somebody that's like, oh no, you're wrong. Dan, you're wrong. What I say is, how do you change that? First of all, you'd have to what? They'd have to realize that they're doing it. Do you think there's a certain percentage that they don't realize that they're doing it?
Yeah, most of us don't realize we're doing it.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked a little bit about in the past, the world has this phrase called emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And this emotional intelligence thing is where we're not aware of ourselves and how we're sensing and feeling in the room. I'm sorry about the feedback. So we have to start. Okay, this is really hard, and I'm worried about the feedback, but I need to say, I'm going to stipulate that you're wrong. How does that make me feel? So in other words, I have to bring it back to myself. Otherwise, I'm just judging and trying to change you so that I feel better. Or if you drive faster, I wouldn't be delayed. If you would drive slower, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable with how fast you're driving because it's making me nervous. It's making me. So in other words, I always have to bring the conversation back into how it's making me feel or what I'm sensing. And for guys, what am I thinking? So if a wife comes and a husband come for counseling, and I'm just make up, let's say the wife says, my husband's an idiot. And I say, okay, I agree. Your husband's an idiot. Yeah. Okay, so what does that do for her that your husband's an idiot? If in fact, I might say to you, ma'am, you married an idiot. What does that make you?
Oh, wow.
She doesn't want to think that way. She wants to project onto him, you're an idiot. And okay, I stipulate in the court of law, your husband is an idiot. We found him guilty of being an idiot. What does that mean to you that your husband's an idiot? And they like, I don't know. It just means he's an idiot. No, it means that it affects you in some way.
Yeah.
So when we get in situations where there's a rub, that's the best way to explain it. When there's conflict or like a rub, then there's something going on in me that's being touched or affected. And it's an opportunity for God to say, like, Gary, they're not an idiot. You're just feeling unloved or wronged, but I never bring it back to me. And so what happens is I'm just always projecting out. And so that's why I call that selfish. I call it selfish, and in Bible terms, it's self-righteous, right? And our own self-righteousness is filthy rags, as Isaiah would say.
Right.
But I sit in this position that I'm right. And we do it more than we would care to admit. The world has no concept of that because they think that's what you're supposed to do, be right. Christ said, I made you right, so you don't have to defend being right. And that's what makes it different.
So good.
That he has made us right. Okay, so that fancy word righteous or righteousness, right? It's his righteousness. And so now he's the one that's right, and it doesn't matter. And so it doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. It doesn't mean you don't think I think it's blue, you think it's gray, you think it's red. That's fine. But I don't have to say, oh, you're wrong. I want to say, I see it a different way, or I disagree, or here's my position. And if they don't want to hear you, you can say like, okay, well, I don't feel like I'm being heard. Instead of saying, you never listen, you say, I'm not feeling heard. You see the difference?
Yeah.
When I say you never listen, then what I'm judging you as you never listen. But really what I'm trying to say is I'm not being heard.
Yeah.
And that's huge in any marital relationship, to be able to not tell the other person what they're doing wrong, but to find out in my own heart, my own soul, as God leads you, is like, what's going on in me? I feel attacked right now, or I feel unloved, or when, it happens all the time. My husband never calls before he comes home from work when he's going to have to work late at the office. He never calls. He needs to start calling if he's going to work late. All right. That's just put a law on him that says for this relationship to work, he has to call. Now you've burdened him with another thing he has to do. Now, maybe he should call, but the point is, what's really going on in your heart if your husband doesn't call? Well, then I'm insecure. Oh, okay, great. But now you could express to your husband, or it doesn't matter, whichever spouse it is that's out of the house. When you're not back at the normal time, I feel insecure, unsafe, whatever it is you feel that's making you demand they do something to make that feeling go away. And this is way too deep, I get, but
no,
but
it's good.
No, it makes perfect sense.
I think it's good stuff.
How do I stop putting it on the other person? That's selfish to put it on you. Like, Rick, if you were a better host, I'd be a better guest. It's like, right? That's me putting it on, Dan's awesome. Rick, you need to work on, so that's me judging your ability to, right? And that would make me, oh yeah, if he was a better interviewer, I'd be a better guest. Like, no, that's stupid. Instead of saying like, wow, I don't feel like I'm asked good questions, or I don't feel heard, or I don't feel, that puts it back on me. But in self-righteousness, I say, you're lousy, you're a lousy. And you might be going, Gary's like the worst guest.
So how do we make ourselves aware
that
we're being selfish in those situations?
Only through the Holy Spirit of God that dwells within us, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's always when there's a rub. It's always when something is out of balance. Like there's this new study in psychology. We won't go into it, but this is like, oh, your brain is trying to be in balance. It's trying to be, as the Bible would say, at peace, right? They can't use that word because that would sound like, oh, too much God stuff. But they want your brain in balance, but we want peace. So when I don't experience peace, when there's a rub, when something is blocking me, when something comes against me, that is the opportunity to stop and go, what is happening? What's actually happening right here?
Yeah.
So that's maybe, but see, we're oblivious to it. And we just keep going and power through it and try to tell you, if you'd call, if you'd write, if you do this, if you do that, then I would be. That's the wrong way to look at it. That's a self-righteous attitude that I'm right, you're wrong, and you need to change so that I'll be okay. And that's not good either.
And it takes a little humility to look and say, all right, I'm feeling wronged here, but I'm not always right, and go from there. Yeah.
Dr. Gary Layne with us, Functional Christianity. We got to take a break here in a second. So Dan's going to put your website up there, functionalchristianity.com. And they're always doing things with couples to help them. It may be at a church somewhere. Or also, I know that you guys also are you still bringing couples into the home?
Once a month, we have one intensive weekend with a couple to get to the
bottom
of this
there in that room.
That right there.
Yep.
Right there.
All right, check it out. So, hey, Gary, let's talk to you next month and see what's up. So.
Bless you guys. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for yours. We love you. Dr. Gary Layne, let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.